On February 23rd, 2023, we got to see a closer look at the gameplay from Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. This gameplay comes after months of speculation and debate about what the gameplay would be like in the game, with many expressing concern that we hadn't seen more of the gameplay before its release. But now, with a closer look at the gameplay available, some are not as excited about the game as they once were. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my personal opinions on the gameplay released for the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game.
Stars and Stripes!
Hello and welcome to another Carrot Scraps video, and by another, I mean the 139th. And of course, as usual, I wanted to give a couple of disclaimers up front. This video is just going to be my early thoughts on the gameplay that we just received for the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game. I have not played the game, and I am still open to having my mind changed in the future once I finally have. I just felt like I had a lot to say once we finally saw more from the gameplay, and so I thought I would do a quick video just expressing my early thoughts. Now, for reference, I'm talking about two videos specifically in this video, and that is a 6-minute gameplay trailer from Discussing Film on Twitter, and a behind-the-scenes look video from the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League official Twitter account. I'm sure these videos were available elsewhere, but that's where I checked them out. And that's the gameplay and the statements I'll be talking about in this video. In addition, the gameplay that you'll be seeing in this video will be from those videos, so feel free to check them out if you're interested. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's talk about my thoughts on the Suicide Squad gameplay. So when it comes to Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, I have some positive things to say and I have some negative things to say, but I think overall, after seeing gameplay and hearing a little bit more about what the game is actually going to be, I have mostly negative impressions. And I say negative impressions because, and I want to remind you of this multiple times, I could love this game. I could play this when it finally comes out and absolutely change my mind on a lot of things that I'm unsure about. Marvel's Avengers, we talk about that game a lot on this channel. Obviously, it's a game that I absolutely love even now. But it was a game that I wasn't sure about when it first came out, or when it was first solicited. It was a game that I didn't like the way that it looked because it looked too much like the MCU to me, and it wasn't in the end, and that's something that I love about the game. I didn't think much of the gameplay, but once I finally started playing it, I was absolutely taken by it to the point where I still enjoy it. So it's entirely possible that I could have a similar change of heart here, and I want to make sure that y'all know that, and you know that these are just my early impressions on a game I haven't played yet. But that being said, I am not super into the game that we are seeing so far from Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. So this is a shooter, not an action brawler, although it looks like there are action brawler elements. And I think the first thing that I would say that I'm disappointed by when it comes to what we've seen is the fact that it's a shooter. Now, a lot of people have said, oh, well, you knew that it was a shooter. Like, you know, it's a superhero game and it's a shooter. You shouldn't be disappointed by this. I'm not necessarily disappointed by the fact that it's a shooter, that all of these characters use guns. I'm disappointed because of the way that the shooting looks. I'm not going to deny there are some really cool moments where these characters are firing guns and using weapons, but overall in the trailer, the shooting doesn't look super deep. I like shooters, whether they're over-the-shoulder shooters or whether they are first-person shooters. I think I tend to prefer first-person shooters, but I like shooting games. And there's some interesting stuff. I like what they say in their kind of interview trailer where they talk about traversal being an important part of combat. I think that's a really unique and interesting idea. And there are cool moments in the trailers that really appeal to me from that perspective. But that being said, when I really look at the shooting and the most intense moments, I just don't think that the shooting looks super deep. And the game is also a loot-based, gear-driven game, right? Similar to Avengers or Gotham Knights. One of the big components of this game is going to be seeking out new gear with different stats and different, abilities to make your gameplay more interesting. And we'll get to more of that in a second, but I feel like that seems to be where a lot of the depth is going to come from, or the personality is going to come from with the combat, and it just feels like a lot of the shooting doesn't seem particularly interesting. So that's like the first thing that really stuck out to me, is that like I'm okay with this being a shooter, but it just doesn't seem like the most compelling shooter. Now, putting that aside, this is a more personal thing. As a superhero game and as a superhero fan, I'm just not as interested in the Suicide Squad. And this is something that I've said a couple of times. I think it's just odd I think I look, there are plenty of moments where I love the Suicide Squad. I love Suicide Squad Rebirth, the Rebirth comic series around these characters. I thought that was a really compelling story for them, and I really enjoyed that. But it feels like we've gotten a lot of Suicide Squad media in the last couple years, and a lot of controversial Suicide Squad media in the last couple years. And we're getting this game, and it just feels like I've gotten so much Suicide Squad. And then on top of that, for me personally, they're just not the most compelling characters in the world. And that could obviously differ for you. These could be your favorite characters, and so then obviously you would be more interested in this game than you would be into other games. But that is definitely something that's holding me back from being head over heels for this game, is as a superhero game, as a DC game, as a AAA DC game, the fact that it's very focused, mainly focused on the Suicide Squad does give me pause, both because we've gotten so much Suicide Squad media and just because they're not like my favorite team in the world. If this was the first time we were seeing the Suicide Squad in a while, I'd be a little bit more excited, but we just get so much Suicide Squad media that I just don't necessarily feel as excited. And then on top of that, the fact that the Justice League are put into the game, to me, feels very forced. And it feels like it's a way of getting people excited about this game by showing, images of Superman and Green Lantern and Wonder Woman. It started as a Suicide Squad game, and then halfway through they were like, we need to get people interested with our, heavy hitters. So let's have our characters fight the Justice League. I don't know if that's actually what happens or what happened during development, but that's kind of what it feels like to me. I would have rather just have a dedicated Justice League game and then a Suicide Squad game, We're getting introduced to a lot of these characters, and obviously everybody knows who a lot of these characters are, but, the Rocksteady versions of these characters, and it's in the context of being villains, and I don't know, I just feel like that's a missed opportunity. But again, that's a much more deeply, personal criticism, I suppose, or, letdown, is the fact that I'm not the biggest Suicide Squad fan, so it's not necessarily going to be the biggest, pull for me. That being said, again, I'm still curious about the game, and I definitely do want to check it out. And I totally recognize that other people are excited because the Suicide Squad is probably their favorite, corner of the DC universe. Now, before I get into another criticism, I wanted to mention something that I am excited about and something that looks really cool about the game. I'm a big Superman fan. I like seeing Superman, in the trailers, and, I'm curious about what they're going to do with him. Obviously, I have pause about the evil Superman stuff. I just, again, I don't have a problem with evil Superman. I just feel like we've gotten so much evil Superman. But the coolest thing, I think, from, seeing these trailers, is the fact that we're playing in Metropolis and the way that Metropolis looks. Even though it's kind of taken over, by these enemy forces, and it's become a battleground, it was really cool hearing them talk about designing Metropolis and hearing them, talk about why they decided that location would be best for the game. And again, as a Superman fan, I'm just excited to exist in this fictional location. It looks really cool, in my opinion. All the stills that I've seen look really interesting, and I like how bright it is. I'm excited about this location, and it's interesting that that's one of the few things that, I'm just unapologetically like, yeah, that's awesome. That's honestly one of the main things that I can't wait to play, is to just explore this city. I loved Gotham Knights, but, I feel like we've explored similar locations like that when it comes to DC games before. Here, I feel like we really are getting something kind of new and interesting by exploring this, hugely famous location in a new way, and with this new team. So I'm very excited that we're getting to play in Metropolis. Now, swinging back in the other direction for a criticism, something that is giving me a lot of pause about the game is the fact that it's a looter, and is the fact that it's a multiplayer looter. Now, obviously, I don't have a problem with those kinds of games, especially when it comes to superhero games. Looters were something that I was introduced to with Avengers. In my opinion anyway. I did play Fallout 76 before that, but I feel like Avengers was really my first looter, and I was giving it the benefit of the doubt. It wasn't a style of game that I was excited about, but I was curious about the other aspects of the game, or excited about the other aspects of the game, and so it gave me faith that I could try this new idea, and see how I felt about it, and luckily that paid off. So, again, obviously I can try that out here, But it's still not my favorite. It's not like a style of game that I love. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say that I'm a looter fan. You know what I mean? I like shooters, first-person shooters in particular. You know, at the end of the day, I enjoy that style of gameplay. I love platformers. I love card games. You know, these styles of gameplay will get me to try new games even if I'm not interested in them. However, looters and live service games are not something that I'm like down for. It's something that I'm willing to try depending on if the other aspects of a game are interesting to me, and this is a good example of that. Now the thing is, you know, I'm sure you'd say like, oh, but you played Avengers and you played Gotham Knights, so why now? I just feel like with Avengers, you know, I think I said this in my review back in the day, the biggest thing about Avengers was that there weren't really other, you know, superhero shooters, right? Or other superhero live service games. And yes, there were other superhero live service games, but it really wasn't an overflooded market from my perspective. It really was more of a unique experience. Even if you had issues with the game, that I feel like that was one of the most interesting aspects of Avengers, is that it did feel unique and interesting in the world of superhero games specifically. However, now that we're getting Suicide Squad, it just feels like we've gotten this style of game a couple times now. We've gotten Gotham Knights, we've gotten Avengers, and now we're getting Suicide Squad in such a short amount of time. I just don't know how excited I am about a game where I'm chasing digital numbers and I'm chasing new gear, in a live service setting, and it's a 4-player, you know, multiplayer game. It just feels so familiar to other games that I've played. And so that's another thing that, like, again, not bad on its own, and it's not even necessarily bad, right? Like, this could be a great part of the game. It's not even that it's bad necessarily, it's just that, similar to the Suicide Squad being kind of overused in my opinion, I just feel like this genre is a little overused, and it's hard to be incredibly excited about it. You know, one of the things I loved about Midnight Suns and Marvel Snap, even though they came out very close to each other and they were both card games, they were very different styles of card game, and even just being a card game, they were very unique compared to every other superhero game that's been released over the past several years. And so I like that style of game, but I was also excited because how often do you get to see that kind of game? You know, a strategy RPG and a card game, you know, driven game. And so it just gives me pause because of how much I've played this style of game. I can't say how excited I am to do it again, to start at level 0 again and start looking for new gear that has a bigger number and, you know, uses ice or uses fire. And that's another thing that is, you know, that I'm hesitant about. So I think I've explained why I'm apprehensive about the game so far. I was already kind of on the fence, but still excited about this game. And unfortunately, seeing this gameplay and seeing these trailers hasn't inspired more hope in the game. It's only made me, you know, more apprehensive about this. That being said, I'm probably still going to pick this game up if I have the available funds. I'm probably still going to pick this game up, and I'm still going to give it a fair shot. I can't say for sure whether I'm going to dislike this game or love it. It's entirely possible that I could love this game, and I want to remind you that my opinions could completely change when the game finally comes out. I've criticized it a lot, so let me just say, you know, to swing into the other direction, there's plenty of stuff in these 2 trailers and in this gameplay that I do like and that I am, you know, somewhat excited for. Like I mentioned, I love Metropolis, I love the way it looks, and that enough for me is something exciting about the game that I can't wait for. Even though I'm not the biggest Suicide Squad fan, you know, like I said, I've liked the Suicide Squad in some scenarios, and I'm excited to see Captain Boomerang again. Harley Quinn's voice actress obviously is doing an incredible job. All the voice actors are doing an incredible job with these characters. King Shark, I feel like they've done a really interesting version of the character. Deadshot obviously looks really cool, even though some people are kind of debating the lore of the character. My point being that even though I'm not the biggest Suicide Squad fan, it seems like they've done a good job at bringing these characters to this version of the universe, of the DC universe. I'm not the biggest fan of battle passes, but the skins that I've seen so far do look pretty interesting. I like the Superman King Shark skin, and I think it's fun to see these villains dress up as heroes. That was something I always wanted from Avengers, was to see the heroes dressing up as other heroes. So I think that's a fun idea, and I think that the design for those skins look great, and I think a lot of these costumes look, you know, really gorgeous. the Justice League are intimidating enemies. Again, I think that their powers are going to be fun as boss battles, if that's kind of what they're aiming for. You know, each of these Justice League members being their own little boss battle. That's something that seems really interesting to me. So that's exciting. Again, even though I'm not the biggest fan of having them be the enemy in the game, I do still like that idea. And then again, I'm excited to, you know, potentially be proven wrong on the shooter elements. Like I said, I like shooters. I enjoy shooters quite a bit. I just don't think that the shooting elements in these trailers look that deep. But that being said, hearing how excited they are about traversal and how that affects combat is something that makes me excited to play. I think that could be something that's really interesting, and in a lot of the gameplay, it does look really cool to see these characters flying through the air and shooting, and, you know, seeing you try to aim your shots while dodging and hopping from rooftop to rooftop. You know, if there's one thing that's unique in this game, I feel like it is that. Although I have heard people mention that this is very similar to Crackdown, and I have to admit I've never played Crackdown, so it's possible that that could be where the comparison's coming from. But in the space of superhero games and recent superhero games, seeing traversal be an important key element to combat is really cool and really interesting, and I hope that that is one of the details about gameplay that make this game really shine. But more than anything else, I'm going to give this game a shot. If I have the available funds to pick it up, I'm gonna give it an honest try. I'm not gonna jump to conclusions about what the game is going to be or how I feel about the game. You know, it's so interesting seeing the trajectory of the Suicide Squad game. I feel like superhero fans can be a little over the top sometimes, specifically in the video game world, where we got like one trailer for Suicide Squad and suddenly people were like, this is way better than Avengers. And I'm like, are you sure you want to say that? We haven't seen any gameplay yet. And then, you know, now we go years later and suddenly people are losing their minds about these gameplay trailers. Now, look, I just spent a lot of time talking about how I'm apprehensive about the game, but, you know, I'm optimistic. But just seeing how people can't just say like, oh, I don't know how I feel about the gameplay, but instead have to talk like as if it's the end of the world because, you know, of the way the gameplay looks in the Suicide Squad trailer. It's like, just give your opinion and maybe reserve the judgment until the game actually comes out, instead of, you know, when you see, you know, the title screen say it's better than Avengers and then 2 years later be like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. It's like, I feel like we should learn to just kind of hold off on making dramatic statements, you know? My main point with this video is my opinion can totally change, but these are, you know, these are my opinions for now, and it's not the end of the world, you know what I mean? I hope that this game is more interesting than I think it is. I hope that the combat and the shooting has more depth than I'm giving it credit for, or than the trailers seem to give it credit for, and I'm going to be going in with an open mind, even though, you know, I feel like we've gotten a lot of Suicide Squad media, and even though we've gotten a lot of looter and live service superhero games, I want to go in with an open mind, and I want to see what this game has to offer. And I want to remind y'all that if you are excited about this game, you know, obviously I'm not here to take away that excitement. I think that that's really cool. Obviously, there's a lot of things to be excited about this game, especially if you love DC, you love the Suicide Squad, if you love the Justice League. You know, there's a lot to be excited about here. But again, I got to be honest about my opinions. I'm just apprehensive about a lot of the details in these two trailers. But with that being said, I would love to hear what you have to say about Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. Are you excited about this game? Did these two trailers only make you more excited? Were you given some of the same apprehension that I was by these trailers, or have you not wanted to play this from the beginning? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. I want to thank you so much for watching. If for some reason you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and to subscribe to my channel for more. As regular viewers know, I make a variety of content on my channel, and I'm always gonna make the videos that I want to make. But if you see something you enjoy, make sure to let me know, and I'll try to prioritize that kind of content in the future. Over on Twitch, I typically play superhero games like Marvel's Avengers and Gotham Knights, but I occasionally play the horror game like Resident Evil. So if that sounds interesting to you at all, make sure to check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/carrotscraps. And all my other social media, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram are at carrotscraps as well. So I want to thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. I realized after recording that this information came from a Sony State of Play, and not just a like, why did I source just not random tweets, but like, look, I'm busy all the time. It's hard to get get the time to watch the state of play. So I'm just on my couch after work, and I'm like, oh look, Suicide Squad. Let me watch this. I'll record a video about this, and then after I'm editing, and I'm like, oh, that was probably the state of play. Look, at least I something. I don't know. At least I someone.